Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm glad to be back in the house and have everybody back on the show. Um, I'm trying to get rid of some echo here that is coming over on my setup here. I have a speaker now that's in here, so I was getting a lot of people that were telling me that they were not able to hear me on YouTube. So, for those of you on YouTube, I need you to let me know, can you hear the speaker that plays in my studio now? Because that was a quick fix to the problem that most of you were experiencing on YouTube. You could hear stuff going on. Well, you could hear me. You could hear me going on, but you couldn't hear uh, what was being said on YouTube. So I think I fixed the problem. So tonight we're going to make sure we don't get any feedback. And if that works and you can kind of hear my voice, which you should hear me through the mixer, but more for when people call in on the show. And I think we're gonna have one caller tonight. I need to try and find her and get her set up over here. But that's the biggest thing we're going to be running into is trying to make sure everybody hears the sound and you guys are all over here and you're all hearing me. So um, it's good to be back, man. I was in Nashville. It was a long week. It was a long week of work stuff. And for those of you who do know, my daytime and nighttime gigs. I work. Man, do I work. And for those of you on YouTube, bear with me while I straighten up the camera situation because I moved my I've moved my computer at the last minute. So you're seeing a lot more than you should be seeing. All the behind the scenes stuff. I don't want you to see my Keeblers back there working in a workshop. So so yes, that's kind of what's going on with me is I just got back from a long work trip. Very, very wow, very informative, very educational, and very a long, tiring trip. I mean, wiped me out, man. I was completely wiped out when I got home. It was good to be home. It was good to come back into my little humble abode. Uh, I'm just letting this young lady know to call in now. So we have somebody who I'm going to get on the phone because I wanted to give her an opportunity to do her shout out for her event that she's got coming up. So, guys, the call in line is up 888 979 9334. Most of you probably saw the topic for tonight, sex and intimacy. I've touched on this one time before. And as
You've
I was
got
sitting
mail.
here doing work tonight, and I keep getting this you got mail notification from my phone. I don't know how to turn it off, but you guys are just gonna have to bear with me because for some weird reason, my phone wants to kind of let me know every notification on the planet, despite me turning it off and telling it not to buzz. It's still buzzing. So I think I just fixed that problem. See all the stuff I have to do to get ready for a show? I need 20 arms in here, man. So it was also cool when I was in Nashville to have some people come up to me and talk to me about they listened to the show. Fellow co-workers. Hey, I was really touched and touched by that. I was flattered. Thanks, guys, for supporting me in the show and tuning in. I do see you there, Jennifer. So guys, I'm gonna get this young lady on the phone before we start the show because I wanted to give her an opportunity to talk about what she's doing. She has an event that she's doing in her neck of the woods, and I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to hear this. And if you live near her, get out there and support her. So let me get her on the phone right now. Hi, Jennifer. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sean?
I'm good. I'm drinking coffee and water. I'm trying to keep awake and hydrated.
Nice.
So, So why don't you do another introduction because you were on the show before and you were promoting an event near you. Is this still the same event that's about to go off?
Yes. So
Okay.
my name is Sato. I am an outpatient coordinator with Post-Acute Medical Rehabilitation Hospital. And we are actually putting on an amputee lunch and learn at our facility this Saturday, the 15th at 11:30 a.m.
Okay. Um, Tell people what's going to be going on there. What kind of things you're going to have?
So we are going to have dietary, wound care, some counseling services available, a prosthetist, and also Endeavors, which works with the VA,
Mhm.
just to have some resources out there for people who have either gone through an amputee or maybe who are going to go through an amputee.
Okay. So give people some details on where they can reach out to you on Facebook or a website, things they can plug in to get more information. Why don't you plug that out there for your event?
Sure. So we have a Facebook page. It's PAM Rehabilitation Hospital of Corpus Christi. You can also reach out to us via phone. My office number is 361 500 0635. And then we are also located downtown in Corpus Christi at 345 South Water Street.
Okay, and do that phone number again and your address one more time, just for people like myself that can't write that fast.
Okay. Our phone number is 361 500 0635. And again, we are located downtown at 345 South Water Street.
Okay, people, you heard that. So if you're in her neck of the woods, why don't you get out there, show her some love, get out there and support this event. I'm always trying to put the word out for any amputee or any amputee organization that's doing things in a positive light to help fellow amputees get education, information, and empowerment. So, Jennifer, thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate your information. And if you have any other events going on, you've got my number.
Sure thing, Sean. Thank you so much again for having me on.
You are very welcome. And tell that little man I said hi. I'll try
Oh,
and
I sure will.
I'll try and get him a picture of me and my teammates, and we'll sign it and send it out to him.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so shoot me your address in my inbox on Facebook, and if we're racing this weekend, so if we can get some good pictures together, I can get some printed. I'll send something your way.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean.
All right, take care, Jennifer.
Thank you, you too.
All right, bye. So, guys, tonight, like I said, we have a very, very interesting show coming up tonight. And again, I want to make sure all of you are over there and you can hear, what's going on with the show on our YouTube channel. So, if you do pop in there, always say who you are and where you're from, so that I know where you're at in your neck of the woods, and I can give you a proper welcome and a shout out. Once I get going into the meat and potatoes of the show tonight, because I know everybody's waiting to hear this topic. Our last show on this topic, they have done very well. It seems like this is a very, how can I say, interesting topic for everybody to hear. And there's a number of reasons. It's not for the obvious, but this is probably one of the hardest subjects to talk about as amputees and people dealing with limb loss and limb difference. So, with a proper introduction, I want to welcome new and old and current listeners to Amp Life Talk Radio, a show for amputees and those affected by limb loss. Living with limb loss can be challenging. You have questions, concerns, and sometimes feel alone in this process. Well, I'm Sean Harrison, the host of Amp Life Talk Radio, certified peer visitor with both Amputee Coalition of America and Empower, and the host of this show. I will be your guide as we go through some of these topics and issues to help walk you through this process, answer questions, and hopefully shed some light on some of the things that you might have questions about. Having someone along with you as you become acquainted with living with limb loss, is why I am here and why I do this show. Empowering amputees to reach their full potential through communication, education, and inspiration is my job, man. It's my goal. It's what I get up every morning and slap my shoes on for. Amp Life Talk Radio is a talk show for amputees and those affected by limb loss. I would like for you to know if you are an amputee, I want you to know you're not alone. Now, season 4, man, it seems like it's just was yesterday I started this. Season 4, episode 5. We're already into our 5th episode of the year. Hopefully, all of you are having a wonderful new year out there. And there are so many of you that have been with me from day one. Understand, I work really hard at trying to do the magazine, Amp Nation magazine.com, and Amp Life Talk Radio, the podcast. Man, it's and I work full time. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot going on, but it needs to be done because there's not a lot of what I do out there on a big scale. I know there's some of you out there holding down the fort and doing the do, putting in the work, and I appreciate and I give a shout out to all of you. I support all of you that are in some type of amputee support role, and I tilt my hat to you. Tonight's show, sex and intimacy, dating, sex and relationships, the new you as an amputee taking on this topic, this issue. Whether you're a new amputee, whether you've been an amputee for some time, this is probably one of the toughest topics to conquer or to have or to even bring up or to think about. Sex and intimacy, dating as an amputee, the new you. Becoming comfortable with sex and intimacy after uh, limb amputation or limb loss um, is something that is very difficult for people to ask for help with. That's why I just do the show because I know some of you are out there. I see you on social media. You're talking about all these other things, but this is probably one of those topics that most of you want to talk about, but you're not talking about. So I like to, not all the time, I do one of these shows once every so often. And I have been working on some new information on this and looking at it from a different perspective. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to approach this from a different perspective. I have decided to tackle this discussion, this tough topic, discussing this sensitive issue, which impacts everybody in the limb loss community. Sex after amputation is not an easy topic to bring up with someone, peer visitor or not, your doctor or not. My goal is to be honest without being graphic. We don't need to get naughty. I am certainly no expert. Let's just put that out there on the table. I'm an amputee. I'm married. I have a lovely wife. She's beautiful. We met in the gym, and we don't really have or experience issues in this area in our relationship. And again, like I said, I am certainly no Dr. Ruth by far on this subject, but I do live it. As sexually active amputees, men and women, who, if you are actively married in a good relationship with children or not, and you do have a spouse, partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, this is a topic that I think we all think about, but we don't necessarily talk about. I can speak frankly about my experiences with my wife. And I can say, to be honest with you, I don't think it really dawned on her or really became an issue as we met each other and moved to an intimate relationship. We talk about it every so often, And she tells me all the time, I never really thought about you missing a leg because you do everything normal. That's a key word. You do everything normal. And I think that's one of the big things that most amputees are so worried about is what is that experience going to be like? And in overthinking that process, we make things weird sometimes. Sexual contact as an amputee. And I think what I'm going to do tonight is this. When we're talking about this, I'm talking to men, women, I don't want to say boys and girls, but young people, whatever your age may be, but male and females. That's all we're talking about. That's the conversation we're having tonight. So I don't want you to think about this from an amputee perspective. I want you to think about this from a male female perspective, looking at this a little bit different, not throwing the amputee thing on the table and sitting here worrying about how that's going. Sexual contact. We approach the subject often, discreet, you know, discreetly, sometimes scarily, sometimes not at all. Sexual contact. Since our amputation, since things have changed in our life, are we still having sexual contact? What is sexual contact? When we talk about sex and intimacy, what is it? We have to really rethink how we look at sex and intimacy, I think, for people in our situation. Dissecting its variations and insisting on its necessity for a healthy relationship is crucial. But is sex even great sex the same as intimacy? Is sexual intimacy what we're actually after? What are we looking for as we're on this new path, this new journey? I want you to think about other types of contact or connections, we'll say. We frequently express a desire to love and to be loved, to feel safe in our relationships, to be known and accepted for who we are, hoping to share our dreams and feelings. Is this intimacy that we truly desire? Is this intimacy? Is it sex? What is it? What is it that you truly desire to have with the opposite sex, with your mate, with your partner, with your girlfriend? What is it that you really want to desire? You want. And for those of you that are still in the dating game, you're not fortunate enough to be married. You're looking for someone. You're in that dating game. What are you looking for? We frequently express a desire to love and to be loved, to feel safe in our relationships. But do we really know what we're looking for when it comes down to sex and intimacy? When it comes down to intimacy, the answers beg for a clear understanding of the types of intimacy that exists between male and female, or just people, how we achieve them, and how they vary. We must get to a point to where understanding the types of intimacy, I think, is a good thing for us to do. For us to have this understanding of the types of intimacy may help us understand better how to approach relationships or deal with the current relationship that we are in. I don't want to say as amputees, but you know what I mean. So often we use the terms intimate, intimate in a purely physical context. We refer to a couple as intimate. in order to express that they are in a sexual relationship. In fact, that is a narrow and somewhat misleading use of the term. And the experts tell us there are several types of intimacy. You got your pens out. Hey, did you guys put the little boys and girls to bed tonight before we started this show? I'm telling you, something might come out in my notes that they may not need to know. So make sure you are by yourself or with your partner. But I want to make sure I'm clear. We are going to be talking about some adult things here. So let's make sure the room is clear of the little ones, okay? So let's get back to this. Experts tell us there are several types of intimacy. What does that mean? Do you know what they are? Well, first, there's intellectual, a rich meeting of the minds. I think everybody should strive for that, connecting with your mate, your partner mentally. The intellectual intimacy. Then there's experiential, closeness in activity such that you are in sync. You ever say that you're in sync? I'll finish your sentence before you finish mine. That type of intimacy. Then there's sexual intimacy, characterized by shared sensual and sexual expressions. And last but not least is emotional intimacy, characterized by sharing feelings, trust, and vulnerability. So when we look at all of these and we think about intimacy, we think about sex, this puts that on a deeper level than just on a surface level. When we think about this, it goes a lot deeper than what you see, the presence of somebody. And we all know that as amputees, body image is a big thing. How we see ourselves, how we think other people see us. These four types of intimacy should help you understand that finding someone or connecting with your current partner goes much deeper than the term sex. Goes way deeper than just intimacy itself. It's not just a singular term. We all want to have a mental connection with the person we're with. We all want to have that closeness in our activities, whether it's going to the gym, going for a walk, going to a movie. And then there's sexuality, or the actual act of sex, sharing the sensual experiences together of touch and feel, emotionally, sharing those feelings. But I think the biggest one emotionally is how we can be vulnerable to someone in our state, trusting that person with our feelings, not so much as with our heart, but with our feelings as an amputee, opening yourself up. Because part of being an amputee is the fear of rejection, the fear of being different. Understanding intimacy and sex is crucial to building a closer bond with the person that you're with. It will also help you distinguish the right person for yourself if you happen to be single, still dating, looking for that connection, looking for that right person. For the purposes of this discussion, let's talk about sexual and emotional intimacy. And I think when we do this, like I said, I want you to look at things from a very, very different standpoint with this topic in mind. I don't want you to overthink it. And before we really get into this, what I have done, just so you know, because I have a lot of information to to plow through here. Um, I've turned off the call line, so I won't see you. I'm gonna shut that screen down, and I'm gonna try and get through the show. If you have questions or anything like that, or you want to comment on this show, go over to our YouTube page or Spreaker.com. And if you leave me comments there or comments on the show itself, I will see those. So, and I think most people want to try and have something like that a little bit more in private. Um, but I did close down the call in line. I got that one call out of the way. And with having so much content to get through here, I don't want to be distracted. So, back to what we're talking about. So, for the purposes of this discussion, we're going to talk about sexual um, and emotional intimacy. That's going to be where we're going to keep that at. Okay. Sexual intimacy. There are times when we hunger for sexual connections. We want that connection with the opposite sex. As people with limb difference and limb loss, those types of connections can be hard to discover. Those of you that are just listening to the podcast, you don't see me on YouTube. I'm enjoying my coffee, so I apologize for sipping coffee on the air, but this is live radio and my coffee's keeping me going. So, hey, Brian, we got Brian in our chat room over there. Welcome to the show. And guys, share this show. When we're on live, share it, man. We need people to see this. We need people to know about it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to Spreaker.com. So I know that you're out there, and it gives me an easier way to communicate with you and contact with you. Sexual intimacy. There are times when I think we all want that. We hunger for it. Human touch is a powerful thing. And the longing for that sexual connection is physical. Not only might we yearn for intercourse, but we might want the press and presence of another person in all his or her sensual splendor. Yes, this is an adult show. Because the things that make that sexual intimacy is smell, the taste, the scents, the sounds, the texture. These are all natural human desires, the visual aspect. And when we talk about the visual aspect and how it enhances our experiences as amputees in intimacy, that sometimes can affect our emotions. So if you're struggling, man or female, with this, know that this is a big part of who we are. Finding that connection, finding that that trust to be vulnerable with your mate, with your girlfriend, with your husband, with your wife. Looking beyond what is missing to discover a true, genuine, intimate connection with that person. In sex, we tend to let down our barriers. I think everybody knows that, especially for females. Part of intimacy and sexual intimacy is letting barriers down, letting someone into your space. And we permit that other person into our most private personal spaces. That can be hard when we're talking about limb loss. It really can. I know some of you out there have probably struggled with this, especially new amputees. But I want to say on that level, having the right person makes all the difference. And the reason I say that is because of those of you that are new, to amputation, to this community, and you're dating, remember that the right person will not see what's missing. I want to say that again. The right person, when we're talking about sex and intimacy, connecting, letting down your barriers, trying to find that connection with that person, the right person will not see what is missing as you let them into your most private personal spaces. Sexual intimacy involves a degree of vulnerability and trust, as we said, for some more than others, and in some scenarios, more than others. Have you ever considered why a quickie with your clothes on may be hot, but less intimate than slowly undressing with your partner? Think about it. It's a matter of exposure and vulnerability. Being vulnerable is not easy. When we talk about a subject such as this, being amputees, it's hard. I was talking with the guy the other day and he was telling me about his dad, and he was saying how even though he was married twice, his wives had only seen his limb probably a handful of times, like five. And you're talking about a guy who's been married for years to two different women, and they both can only say they've probably seen his limb, his exposed limb, his residual limb, a handful of times. My wife sees mine all the time. I'm always sitting around with my leg off. She has been with me in numerous situations where not only has she seen it, touched it, um, massaged it, I feel very comfortable with her. In the beginning, I will be honest, I was a little worried. We were dating, and I didn't know what she would think the first time when we were going to be intimate with each other. Seeing me pull off my leg, take my liner off, and get in bed with no foot. Um, it's a scary time to do that, and it. How can I say it? You're very vulnerable at that time because the wrong thing said at that moment could change everything in your relationship. So um, think about that and think about where we're at right now in this topic. So I think this is a very important area where hopefully this is making sense to you, and I hope that some of you are listening to this with your partners, because that's why this show um, is so good. You can listen to this in the privacy of your own home. Get your partner, sit down, pour some wine, and listen, and kick it around. Talk about what we're talking about. I want this to be something that helps you. Sexual intimacy involves that degree of vulnerability and trust that all of us fear sometimes. All of us. There are times when we want to and engage in sex, not lovemaking. This may occur with no attachment whatsoever, with some affection or with friends. We're people just like other people. That's why I broke this out and I said, for those of you that are dating, and there's those of us that are married, we're covering it all tonight. Gloves come off with some affection or with friendship. Friends with benefits, we've all heard it. As amputees, it doesn't make us any different than normal people. We can still have the same relationships, the same things as people with all their limbs, as able bodied people. So, amputees can still have friends with benefits if that's where you're at and if that's what you want to do. I don't judge nobody. As adults, if we are paying attention and we understand the nuances of sharing parts, not hearts, we may understand a little bit better on how to control our emotions and who we are as we deal with sex, intimacy, and dating. Emotional intimacy. There are times when we seek an emotional bond. We all look for that. We want that emotional bond, being accepted for ourselves, love for ourselves, sharing our happiness, and for that matter, in tough times, man, that emotional connection. We crave that state of being uh, that is all about closeness, trust, and comfort. When you're with somebody, you feel comfort. Like my wife came in this morning, I was writing on my book. For those of you who don't know, I'm writing a book. It was early in the morning, and I'm sitting here listening to my classical music and I'm writing. And my wife comes in her pajamas and she comes next to me and she hugs me and I'm holding her. And it just feels so good when she does that. It makes me want to go back to bed. But the comfort she gives me, the closeness that we feel, the connection we feel, emotional intimacy, your connection. We all want a special connection with another person at a deep emotional level. And we all can have that despite limb loss, limb difference. It's how we go about it. Today, or we'll say, I was reading an article in Psychology Today, and it described emotional intimacy as a closeness that requires a high level of transparency and openness. This involves a degree of vulnerability that can feel uncomfortable at times, can create some anxiety in many of us. When we achieve it in a relationship, emotional intimacy may act as a formula for enhancing emotional well being and physical health as well. I want to say that again. When you can achieve this in your relationship, your marriage, it can act as a formula for enhancing emotional well being and physical health and well being. As amputees, we struggle a lot with a lot of emotional things, dealing with the loss of the limb, dealing with body image, dealing with how people are going to look at me, dealing with the trauma, if there was one. So, being able to develop a good emotional connection with those who are closest to us is probably the best medicine that anyone can have as an amputee going through life. If you are lucky enough to discover and find that, you are a truly, truly blessed person. And for those of you that are out there on the single scene, dating, you now know a little bit about what you might want to look for in that person when you're ready to settle down. I want you to note that emotional intimacy does not require physical affection. I'll say that again. Emotional intimacy does not require physical affection, though certainly for most of us, it enhances or it is enhanced by something as simple as a kiss on the cheek, a holding of a hand, a hug, a rub along your back, a caressing of your arm, fingers running through your hair. All these things can enhance that. One of the things that we must have in any type of relationship that we're trying to establish, intimate or not, communication. Communication is essential to emotional intimacy. We cannot be married to a person or be in a relationship or want to date anyone, especially if we want this relationship to last for years. We can't do it and never achieve emotional intimacy. I don't know people, there are people out there that are in relationships just because of the money. I can't do it. But we can't be married or be in a serious relationship for years and never achieve emotional intimacy. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. Keeping in mind that intimacy isn't a destination, but rather an experience or set of feelings. And communication is an essential ingredient in emotional intimacy. But we often find ourselves communicating superficially about family, life, as we talk about the workday, discuss domestic duties, strategize our money, income, schedules, dropping off kids, organize events around exes, kids, those types of things. We all use humor and sarcasm. That's one of the biggest things that I think most amputees tend to do is they utilize humor and sarcasm to, I don't know, deflect, I guess you want to say. And activities, staying busy to fill up our time together. Whether it's intentionally or not, we may be deflecting and protecting in order to avoid the very vulnerable and and the transparency that we actually need to strive as a couple. I hope you got what that was saying to you. There's a time to be funny and humorous, and then there's a time not to. The importance of vulnerability. The vulnerability involves emotions, or we'll say emotional intimacy, and is anxiety producing for many. Vulnerability involves emotional intimacy, and it can be an anxiety producing event or moment for a lot of us. Allowing yourself to get in that vulnerable state to experience emotional intimacy can cause anxiety. I can't breathe. Oh, I can't breathe. So remember that. And we deflect. We tend to do, sarcasm and humor to try and get ourselves out of that. We must learn to allow ourselves, especially with our partners, to experience that. One way to alleviate that anxious feeling, that anxiety, is by allowing enough time to pass so trust will be well established in your connection with your partner, your wife, your husband. Dating, you're dating. Be with that guy for a little bit before you go down this road. Get to know him. Get to establish that trust so you won't freak out in that situation. And even still, vulnerability is very disorienting when we're out of practice. So being or becoming an amputee can kind of put us on the sideline for a little bit. And then when we decide, I want to start dating again, I need to get I need to get back out. We might be a little bit rusty. So give yourself some time. Give the situation some time. For those of you that are single, you single folks out there. Well, many of us feel that sex is relationship glue. You ever heard that? People that they just gotta have sex. Um, and there's a lot of people like that. I think I myself am one of those people. Sex is the glue to your relationship, man. It's the duct tape to your relationship from which communication and intimacy will flow. Others may deem emotional intimacy and stuff like that to a fulfilling sex life. We people tend to seem to, how can I say, associate that with a fulfilling sex life. We don't always need to have sex to have a strong sex life, but it is important. Don't let anyone fool you by saying it's not. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, we don't need sex. We don't have to have sex." I don't know anybody on this planet, okay, that doesn't feel that sex in a relationship does not um, is not important, because it does. It tends to help you let down your barriers, which means you're going to be more open to communicate and talk and to express and feel vulnerable and trust. So it is very important and a very important part of a relationship. That's my thoughts. Okay. I'm no professional, but that's my thoughts. And what if that sort of vulnerability that we're talking about is a no go? There are some people that just don't want to do that. What if your partner is unwilling or unable to communicate in a deeply personal way? It could happen, especially when we're talking about amputees, limb loss. We're struggling. We're having issues with dealing with our limb loss, our limb difference. It can happen. You're the other partner. You're trying to get this connection. What do you do? Does that make him or her withhold or simply more comfortable with revealing less? Even if the sex is fabulous, well, an unsatisfying degree of emotion, or we'll say emotional intimacy, may leave you languishing. But let's say it is, but you're not connecting in that other way, the communication that we talked about. We may be paired with a partner who doesn't provide the confidences that we want or need, much less the acceptance of ours. Keep in mind, we're talking about limb loss as an amputee. I've heard stories where people have went through an amputation. After coming home from the hospital, they come home to an empty house. The other half moved out, unable to cope and deal with what has happened to their partner. Yes, it stinks. It sucks, but it happens. We may be paired with that partner who can't deal. They don't feel like they can handle being with someone with limb difference or limb loss. It's hard to hear that. It's hard to absorb that. But that's life. That's a fact. I always believe that if that's your situation, there's somebody better out there for you. You just have to be able to understand it and see that for what it is. Limb loss, limb difference, it's not for everyone. I'll say that again. Limb loss and limb difference, it's not for everyone. So please know that. Don't take it the wrong way. That's just how life is. Some people can deal, some people can't. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means they're probably not the person for you. We each experience intimacy differently. Emotional and sexual intimacy can be tricky. They are not absolutes. On the contrary, we each need in terms of intimacy will vary. My deep sharing will not be yours. Yours will not be mine. We're all different, and that's what makes us so wonderful. Our comfort levels with sexuality and emotional intimacy will change over time and evolve according to partners or circumstances. A lot of what we're talking about. You have two people, something happens, limb loss, limb difference, things are going to change. Hopefully, they change for the better. You've been together and you've already had that limb, limb loss or limb difference. You will change over time with each other. Hopefully, using what we're talking about tonight, it will be for the better. It will be for the positive. The key takeaway from tonight is communication. Understanding we're all different when it comes to sex and emotional intimacy. We all will change and evolve according to our partner and our circumstances. In my opinion, I'm going to say we have to understand that we're all different. The people who choose to love us are a special breed of people. I try to tell young people this all the time when they go through something like this, that finding that guy or girl that's going to be in a relationship with you, you're going to be a truly blessed person because that person can truly see beyond what is missing and discover you for who you are. And they appreciate you for who you are. That is worth its weight in gold. Now, passion, love, sex, and connection. Some men and women are content to keep sex at arm's length, keep it away from their emotional core. Remember, vulnerability, which keeps their lives less complicated. I know single mothers who explicitly operate in this fashion, given that dealing with an ex, raising kids, holding down the house, a job, can make for an emotional overload as it is. And then to try and say, bringing a man on board, it's you or the dog. I'm going to take the dog. So it can be tough. And then when we throw in the mix, limb loss, it's even harder. Others crave other things, a profound degree of trust and transparency, agreement and connection. The very definition of emotional intimacy, which is highly dependent on both time and communication. But passion is not predicated on emotional intimacy, just as emotional intimacy does not require physical contact. I want to read that again for you as we're finishing up here. Passion is predicated on emotional intimacy, just as emotional intimacy does not require physical contact. And love can take place at an emotional remove. Love can take place at any moment in your emotions, or for that matter, a sexual remove. Love, sex, connection, these are a matter of optimal mix that is comfortable, satisfying for both individuals participating in the relationship. Boys and girls, tonight, I hope this show touched and spoke to you. I hope that you found some little nuggets in here as you try and work through this uh, maze of emotions and intimacy and love and dating and relationships and marriage. I hope it gave you a little insight on what you can do to make your situation better with your spouse, your boyfriend, hey, even your friends with benefits. Because, like I said, whatever your situation is, I'm not a judger of men or women. I'm here just to put some information in front of you, and hopefully it'll help you figure out some things. As we are all amputees on our own journeys, it is important to have the right information to make the best decisions with where we're at and what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. May love find you. May relationships find you. May the boyfriend or girlfriend you're looking for find you. Sex and intimacy is something that I think most amputees aren't comfortable talking with. So anytime that I can share a bit of knowledge on the show about this topic that you can listen to in the privacy of your car or your home, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try my best to give you some insight. And I think tonight really opened up some good information. I know I learned a lot from looking at the information as I prepared for this show. So, boys and girls, have a good night tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in and listening to me over here at Amp Life Talk Radio. Make sure you give us a like or subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to Spreaker.com and subscribe so that you can talk with me. I will post the show uh, up on Facebook and some of my other social media platforms. As always, what ends up happening when I hit my final button, there's always that mad delay because of streaming. I always try to go back in and post edit and clear up our closing of the show to make sure everything's clean and sounds good. Hey, for those of you that might be out there at the San Jose Spartan this weekend here in California, I look forward to seeing you. I'm not in the best shape, but I will be out there with my eye doctor, Dr. Todd Severin. You better be ready, man. We got some hills to climb. I'm taking my lovely wife too. We're going to be out there, Heather and myself and my eye doctor and Laura, who I work with. I want to give Laura a shout out. I want to give her acknowledgement. Be ready, Laura. Eat them pickles, girl. Get your mustard. Hey, guys, I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks, guys, for tuning in and making this show a hit. Um, I want to put this out there. I'm looking for people to interview, especially doctors, orthopedic doctors, and all of you practitioners. I love for you to contact me because I want to put together a series of talks and shows on prosthetics uh, and have you guys be able to come on and fill some questions from people here as we do a show. So if you are a practitioner making prosthetics, even if it's orthotic wise. We have a lot of questions from people. I love to put you on the show and have people call in and be able to pick your brain. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed the show tonight. I hope it gave you something to take away from here. And as always, I'm appreciative of my good man Rich for all my sounds at Soul Effective Productions. Thanks, Rich, man. You're the best. And I miss and love my team. I'll see you guys soon. Other than that, guys, it's time to sign off and go get something to eat. You guys sleep well, be well, live well, and love well. I'm Sean Harrison, your host at Amp Life Talk Radio. Thanks. You are listening. The views expressed on the show by the host, co-hosts, and guests are their own. Always seek medical advice from a licensed medical professional.